战略必将遭到全面和彻底的失败。
主义的火炬照亮人类前行之路，不断崛起、不断扩大的国际影响力。
I could start perhaps this time with Victor. So, what message is being sent, do you think, to China by the congressional visit to Taiwan?
Well, first of all, this congressional visit to Taiwan by the U.S. Members of the Congress is a serious violation of the One China policy. And China will take measures accordingly. And China has already announced a series of sanctions against three most heinous members who promote Taiwan independence. And I think all these members of Congress from the United States will be put on the sanction list, meaning they will be banned from entering China's mainland, China's Hong Kong, China's Macau, and they and their family members will be banned from doing any business with China's mainland, Hong Kong, and Macau. I think this sends a very strong message that China does not tolerate any such provocation, any attempt to promote one China, one Taiwan, or Taiwan independence. This is a line drawn in the sand, and no political force in Taiwan will ever be successful in achieving Taiwan independence. Why? Because history does not allow that. And the 1.4 billion Chinese people does not allow that. And that number of Chinese people include the majority of the 23 million people on Taiwan. This is the reality. I hope U.S. politicians will be realistic and pragmatic. They should not bet on Taiwan independence at all.
Victor, is the US and China heading towards a Cold War?
No, I don't think so. Why? Because the Cold War is against the fundamental interest of the United States. Okay. It is against a fundamental interest of China. It is against world peace and development.
All right, let me
bring in no more Cold War.
China's increasing ability to project its power militarily, whether it's over Taiwan, whether it's in the South China Sea, to project its economy and economic influence through 5G technology to allegedly cybersecurity breaches. Do you think all of that is fueling concern in the West?
Now, first of all, China is a big power in the world, and China does need national defense capabilities commensurate to its increasing economic reach. This is a fact. Second point, China's national defense is mostly for domestic defense, as well as liberating Taiwan if we have to, or peaceful reunification with Taiwan, preferably. And China's military defense is designed to protect China's legitimate interest in far corners in the world. This is the nature of China's national defense. China does not want to invade any other country or take over any other country's land, because this is not only against China's own interest, it is against the principle of peace and peaceful coexistence with all the other countries in the world. Therefore, I think there are people who are raising false alarms about China's economic development or the steady development of its defense capabilities. China's defense capabilities are very large. It's on the par with the United States to a very large extent. And anyone who provokes a war between
Victor,
China
when
and
we
the
talk
United
about
States
simply defensive posture, in
disasters
July,
for mankind.
we had that coordinated US and European condemnation of China for what they saw as hacking.
If you talk about hacking, read Edward Snowden's book or writings, and you will know who is the top hacker in the world today. Don't mention to me about China doing hacking when you ignore what Edward Snowden has written very eloquently about who is the king of hacking in the world of today.
Oh, but lately we've had, I think in August, the Lithuanians authorizing the opening of a Taiwan representative office, the president of the Czech Senate visiting Taiwan in September, the EU delegation that visited recently, and now this congressional visit.
Well, first of all, you talked about several Eastern European countries, and I want to remind you that China already asked that country to recall its ambassador to China. If they continue onto the wrong path of provoking China in violation of the One China policy, China probably will sever its diplomatic relations with that particular country.
But
to
Victor,
set the
even if that
record
happens,
straight,
my question is, does that mean China's losing its ability to influence other countries' policies towards Taiwan, is my question.
Yeah, the answer is the influence or the impact should be very clear. There is only one China. Taiwan is part of China. This is acknowledged by the United Nations, by almost all the countries in the world, including all the EU member states, including the United States, including all its Five Eyes member states. You name it. Japan acknowledged that. This is the cornerstone of China's foreign relations with all the countries in the world, with all the United Nations. Now, the United States cannot have the cake and eat it. Back in 1979, the United States did the right thing. They severed the relations with Taiwan. They canceled the defense treaty between the United States and Taiwan. They withdrew all the U.S. troops stationed in Taiwan. Now, if they want to really reverse that, be my guest. But the consequence will be there will be no more diplomatic relations between China and the United States. And the real legal status between China's mainland and Taiwan is the unfinished civil war. Why Taiwan ended up with its current situation? First of all, it's because of the Cairo Declaration, Potsdam Declaration. Secondly, it's because of the civil war in China. The nationalist forces fled mainland and settled down in Taiwan. So if the United States keep provoking that, they probably will provoke the resumption of the civil war. And do you think the U.S. wants to shed its sons and daughters' blood for a civil war between China's mainland and China's Taiwan province? Be my guest. I don't think the United States want to shed blood of the American soldiers for Taiwan. Why? It's futile. Ever since the beginning of the 1960s, China's mainland already possessed enough military capabilities to take Taiwan by force. Why China has never done that? Because we all prefer peaceful reunification of China.
Okay, let me try and get in a final word from Victor. And Victor, what's the bottom line here? It does seem like the Biden administration has succeeded somewhat in bringing allies together again in some kind of alliance against China, and perhaps more of an alliance, at least, than the Trump administration. How can China counter that?
Well, first of all, China and the United States will have their virtual summit meeting on Monday, November the 15th. This sends a very good message to the whole world because the dead end is not there, and the two countries are not destined to fight off each other in a war. The two countries have much greater interest to talk about than simply the Taiwan issue. And the fact that China and the United States signed this climate change agreement in Glasgow speaks loudly that China and the United States can get their acts together to promote cooperation and friendship eventually, and Taiwan will be a smaller thing in the overall scale of China-US relations. After all, these are the two greatest nations in the world, the two most important militaries in the world, and the two largest economies in the world. I am very optimistic about the medium and longer term relations between China and the United States.
All right, let's end on an optimistic note.